Obviously, I don't know why I fish, but what really draws me to it is the personal challenge each time you go out. My parents had a cabin cruiser, like a 26-foot Owens in Port Jeff Harbor. And so what they would do is them and other people in the marina on weekends, they would go up into a place called Conscience Bay in Port Jeff Harbor, and they would tie their boats together, and they would do what, I don't know how old those people were back then, I guess in their 30s, they would do what 30-somethings do, or whatever, maybe they were 40 years old. They would do what those people do, which is they would party. So now you got this little kid, and what are you going to do with him to keep him out of your hair? Well, it turns out, in my case, you give him worms. And if you give him worms, he stays out of your hair. Back then, we had fish. And you go down at night with a redfin, and boof, you know, you're getting hit. Hey, I got hooked. There's no stopping it. Yeah. I would like for readers to think a little more about simplification of things. Like, to me, a lot of the gear and the lure selection and all these things, they can get really overblown. And you need some basic tools. And I kind of wanted to present that. I don't want to say it's minimalistic, but in a way it is. You know, I've got, like I said, 2 rods I can use to cover almost all surf fishing applications. And you don't have to go overboard. You don't have to get $600 rods. These are just tools. You need a rod to fish. You need a halfway decent reel. And then when you get down to lures, you need some dependable types. Like, for example, throughout the book, I say a lot about super strike lures. That's a tool that I can depend on. I know if I throw a darter out there in a rip, a super strike darter, apply water pressure to that lip, that thing's going to wobble. I know it's going to work. I can have confidence in that. I spend a lot of time on Google Earth looking at stuff. Google Earth is a wonderful, wonderful tool. The fact that you can go back in time and find usually you can find some satellite imagery that will show you the structure. I mean, obviously, on the open beaches, it's not as useful, but you would be surprised, even on the open beaches, how if you look back in time, a lot of the structure is more stable than you think it is, or it repeats itself over years. I'm not always fishing for fish. I'm fishing for new spots, new patterns, like where I just mentioned that time of the year, certain tides, certain weather conditions. Well, geez, when you find one of those, it's great because that's something that can be reproducible. So I spend a lot of thought trying to find those patterns, not necessarily trying to find the school of fish that's running down the beach today, but to know where those fish are going to set up under particular circumstances. You hear this notion of buy the best that you can, and buy the best you can afford. That's actually the saying. And yeah, all right, despite the look of my Jeep, I'm not poor. I can afford to spend some money on fishing gear, but my philosophy is buy what you need. And yeah, I need dependable, my example in the book is when I fish the inlet, I need a dependable, strong reel. And I've used the Penn 706Z forever for that. Yeah, it's not an $800 reel, but you know what? It does the job. It's a really good reel. It works for me, and I have a lot of confidence in it. And if it ever gets to the point that I have loads of money I don't know what to do with, I'll buy waterfront property before I'm going to spend a lot more money than I need to on surf fishing gear. Again, these are tools. There's no reason to go overboard with it. The pattern I hate the most is the fall run along the open beaches. I can't tell you, even in the good years, how many times I sit there going, I hate the fall, I hate the fall. And the reason is that a school of bunker goes by, a school of mullet goes by, and you can hear like the sucking sound while it just sucked all your fish with it. And things are on the move, very hard to predict. I hate it.